Hi there, and we appreciate your time today joining us for another Unmuted with Marsha. Today we've got Sara Carter, and you all know her. You see her on TV. Dark Wire is what she started and runs. She's a Fox News contributor, and she is an advocate for some of the Afghan people who are trying to escape terrorism, trying to escape the Taliban. And we've all followed the work that she's been doing and reporting on as she is bringing us stories from behind enemy lines. So, Sara, thank you for spending a few minutes with us today and give us an update. What are you hearing from people that are stranded, that are still left behind?
Well, it's actually been, thank you, Senator, first of all, for everything that you do and for all the advocacy and bringing attention to such an important issue. I have been in communication with people behind the enemy lines. I was actually contemplating going to Panjshir till about a week ago when I decided, and I'm really grateful for the advice of my Afghan friends, that it was just too dangerous and I didn't want to have another situation arise by me being there. So we can see what's happening right now in Panjshir Valley. Just so people out there understand, I spent a lot of time in Afghanistan. So did my husband. He is a retired Delta Force a commando, I call it, and he went back and continued to fight the fight against terrorism. And so we both have spent a lot of time in Afghanistan. We have a very close connection to that region. That's where my husband almost lost his life. So I can tell you from my heart, there are allies there that truly have stood by our side, that have truly helped us in the fight against terror. And they feel abandoned now. They feel lied to. Some of these are Americans. They are Afghan Americans that are there that have been left behind. There are special interest visa holders that have been left behind. Those are people that assisted our troops, like my husband, on the front line. And just so you understand, they really worked that closely. When my husband was wounded and he was almost killed, lost his eyesight, who pulled him off the battlefield? It was, let's call him Sam. It was a guy named Sam. He was a linguist that worked with my husband. And those relationships are bonded. And right now in Panjshir, the tribes up there are fighting the Taliban, have been surrounded. We've been hearing back and forth reports. The tragedy that I've been hearing, and I think this is new news for everyone, is that there appears to be a genocide occurring in Panjshir. The Taliban, along with Al Qaeda and ISIS, are sweeping through that region. It's a beautiful mountainous region in the north where the villagers are very much allied with the West, and they don't want an uprising. So they're just killing with impunity as many people as possible. One of my friends said 36 people in his village that he knows of have been killed, including women and children. So these are the people that the Biden administration is attempting to negotiate with. These are mass murderers. These are terrorists. These are people that have a cult-like belief. They're what you would consider extremists by any other name, but also criminals. They're criminal extremists and they're terrorists, and there's no way to negotiate with them, Senator. It's devastating. We've seen what can happen when we don't pay attention to this part of the world. And when now with our weapons and with our money and with our technology, there is a dread that our national security right now is going to be directly affected. And that what happened on September 11th will be small compared to what will happen in the future. And that scares me.
Yes. You know, Sara, that is something that I think frightens a lot of Tennesseans. And I spoke to a women in business group yesterday here in Tennessee. And when we were doing Q&A, they weren't necessarily talking about the economy or business or how to move forward. What they wanted to do was talk about the angst that they feel and the fear that they have. And this wasn't a political group, it was a business group. And people are very fearful of what is in front of us because of the way this has been handled, the way the Taliban is being elevated, the way our war on terror, which was fighting an ideology, has become now the terrorists have a nation state that they're controlling. So we have given them a country to run. We've given them a place to cook up their terrorist plots, and we gave them the military equipment that they need to come after us, our allies, to come after the nation of Israel. And what do we see in the middle of this? China, right there, giving that political and economic support. Russia, we don't know exactly the extent. We can only guess the extent of their participation. And of course, Iran, because Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, the Houthis, all of these are their proxies. And Iran exports terrorism.
That's
so
exactly it. They have every right to feel this way. You're so right, Senator. It is an angst because, you know, prior to September 11th, the only nation that ever recognized the Taliban was Pakistan. That was it. No other nation on earth recognized this as a legitimate government. How is it that after 20 years, after all the blood spill, American servicemen and women, our intelligence agents and our intelligence officers that worked in the region, the people that have invested their time, the wounded, over 20,000 American service members wounded in Afghanistan, living with those wounds every day. How is it that all of a sudden now we have turned around at, like you said, elevated, I love that word, elevated the Taliban, four of whom were released by President Obama are now serving in the government. One who I loved when Peter Doocy held up the most wanted, $5 million, or whatever, the guy is now serving in the Ministry of Interior. So we have these terrorists serving in a government. I got to tell you, they really should be worried. Because my Afghan friends are worried. You asked me, like, what am I hearing? What am I hearing from behind enemy lines? There are many Afghan people that worked with us prior to September 11th and even after, who, worked with our U.S. intelligence agencies, with Western intelligence agencies, and even during trying to stop things that were potentially going to harm our nation on our soil. And they're telling me right now, when those planes took off, those first 2 days from Kabul, and when it was just a madhouse and the State Department just let everything fall apart. I mean, people were literally paying the Taliban at the gates. They were allowing the people they wanted through, not the SIVs, not the most important Americans, not the ones that they were letting people through that gate that we do not need here. We do not want here. They are terrorists potentially. They are bad guys potentially. And so my Afghan friends that did make it through, the good ones, the ones that did make it through, they said, what worries them most is that they don't want the American people to look at them as a potential problem, as a terrorist. They said, we will report them. Let us talk to these people. Let us interview the good guys, interview everyone that's coming through so that we can vet them with the Americans, because we'll catch them, we'll know. So when people from their own country are worried that bad guys might have slipped through, we should be worried that the bad guys slipped through. And also, like you said, what's going to happen a decade from now, 5 years from now, 4 years from now, while Al-Qaeda's on the ground, over 2,300 Al-Qaeda fighters potentially in Afghanistan right now. ISIS is on the ground. And we've got all these players like China, Russia, and everybody else potentially dividing up Afghanistan and to use these groups as proxies. It's scary.
Yeah. It is truly frightening. And I think that people are quite worried about the connection between the cartels in Mexico, the cartels in China, and these terrorist organizations and what is transpiring at the southern border.
Oh, that's a great point, because, I spent a lot of my time this year, most of my time at the southern border.
Right.
And it's not just, I always say, this isn't just about Mexican migrants or people from Central America. What we're seeing is, and we've seen this for a long time, and this is what the Drug Enforcement Agency has been phenomenal, DEA working to find those potential nexus, that connection between the drug cartels in Mexico and South America, as well as their dealings in Africa, across the board to ship their product as well to Europe, has created those relationships and those lines, those transient lines of whatever moving human trafficking to move people into the United States. And we've seen people now from all over the globe, over 75 nations. I think there was 90 the last I counted, that have used the Mexico border to enter the US. We know that many people are never apprehended at the border. And those that are apprehended come in without any identification. And I always say, they say, well, yeah, but people are given, biometrics if they apprehend them. Yeah, but that's only if they are actually in an Interpol database, if they're actually a known terrorist. What about all the people that we don't know who are being recruited, who are part of a sleeper cell? We saw the 2 men from Yemen coming in through California. Those pinged. Those 2 men pinged, and obviously the Border Patrol didn't expect that to come out, or DHS. It came out publicly, and they were potential terrorists, and they were apprehended. But what about all the people we don't apprehend?
That's right. All the gotaways.
Yeah, it's so vulnerable right now. We are really vulnerable. And with this administration, I cannot believe, I think we are the most vulnerable we have ever been in modern history right now, for potential enemies to do whatever they want.
Yes, that's right. And this is one of the sad things. President Trump, Secretary Pompeo, they had worked with our NATO allies, our Afghan partners. There was a withdrawal plan in place that was in process. It was in process. And Joe Biden decided he wanted to do something different. So we did. And you see what that has gotten us. And then you look at what has transpired at the southern border. That border was basically secured. It was quieted down. We still had some entrance, but nothing like what we are seeing right now. The wall was being built. Everything was under control. The Border Patrol felt supported for the first time in many, many, many years. And now they're just blowing away all the numbers with people coming in. So the vulnerabilities are there. And Sara, we just appreciate the way you are after these issues, that you're looking after our nation's security. You and your husband have made such sacrifices to fight for the cause of freedom. And we are just really grateful for that attention that the 2 of you, separately and together, give this issue. Now, for everyone watching this Unmuted with Marsha, you're going to find her online at Sara Carter, DC. Keep
Correct.
Up with her. And you're going to find me at Marsha Blackburn. Stay in touch with us. We are in the fight to keep this country free. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you so much, Senator. It was great being with you. Thank you.